And on that record in particular, speaking upon a black man, you also talk about like religious indoctrination and Christianity and some of the, in your opinion, the pitfalls of that at the time, especially. So, what made you want to explore that on that song in particular?
When you've grown up under certain beliefs, certain traditions, beliefs and ideals that you begin to question, you know, and you're not getting the answers that you seek. The answers are not good enough. But everybody around us were Christian. My family were Christian family. My parents, you know, stayed in the church. And I just had a lot of questions about it. I had a lot of questions about the doctrine, its origin, the center of the religion. Jesus, and I would ask a lot of questions. I would ask a lot of questions that no one could seem to answer adequately. You know, so I wanted to talk about it. I want to talk about it. Like I said, rap. Writing, doing hip hop, it was my outlet. It was my soapbox. That's my soapbox. Because I was never really. I wasn't. I don't talk a lot. I'm not the guy that be holding the conversation based on small talk and just hanging out and talking all day. I wasn't that guy. I was more introverted than not. But even though I was I was around the way. I was around the way. I was in the streets. Had a lot of street time, but I wasn't talkative. I never really talked about what I thought until really hip hop. It really showed what I think sometimes. So yeah. Yeah, but Christianity was just one of those things where everybody in the neighborhood, there's a church on every corner, liquor store on every corner, you know, and I had a lot of questions about it. Had a lot of questions.
Clearly.
Still do.
Well, I think the important thing is to be aware and to ask the questions and to find people that are trying to help, you know, educate you in whatever way. And thankfully, listening to Poor Righteous Teachers, KRS-One, Boogie Down Productions, among many others, helped me at least start to understand a lot of things that, I wasn't necessarily exposed to. So I'm internally grateful for that. When another song with so many teachers, you were talking about how we need more leaders like Farrakhan and Malcolm X and such. So with that one, I was always intrigued because um, obviously they didn't end up on the same page, but the significance of the need for black leaders and addressing that in a rap song. Um, so for you, how did you decide who to highlight at the time and what to put out there?
Well, I always functioned, in terms of the community, it, two groups. We have black leaders and we have the leading blacks. So making that distinction wasn't that difficult for me, you know. So I just felt that, it's like this book I have. It's called the 13th Tribe, where they talk about the Kagan Beck, the king of Khazaria, and he wanted to know which religion was the closest to the truth. So he summons someone from Islam, an imam. He summons a Christian priest, and he asks them, you know, which he bring them in one at a time, and he asked the Muslim, he asked him which religion is closer to the truth, Christianity or Judaism, and he said Judaism. The Muslim said Judaism. And so he brought the Christian in. He asked the Christian who was closest to the truth, Islam or Judaism, and the Christian said Judaism. You know, so it was an easy deduction from there for him. You know what he needed to do. So it's one of those things. You know, it's one of those things where the deduction is not that difficult. Once you start paying attention to what's going on in your community, you understand the predicament your community's in. You know, you know what, and you know what the desired outcome should be. You know, and the leading blacks have historically functioned in a in a strict in a strict rigid individualist kind of uh, outlook. You know, that's been their way of moving. Whereas, black leaders are not coming to really lead people. They come in to show people how to lead themselves. A leader is not, the people don't need leaders. The people need to be shown how to lead themselves. They, allowed to lead themselves, So yeah, I mean, these are things that we talked about a lot. We talked about a lot, being that we were in it. We were in it on every level. You look at America today and all the talk about social justice and all of those things. You know, we were the voiceless. We were the voiceless. We were the voiceless, marginalized community that they're talking about now. That they're finally coming and say they're finally coming to a place where they can admit that something's wrong, that something's awry. So we've been having these discussions about justice and equality and freedom and peace and love forever. It's like we've been doing this forever. You asked since when, Brother Jay, right? But it's one of those things, leadership. We were big on leadership. Time to Say Peace, the single, the moral leaders of our nation. We had the sample, and
And even on So Many Teachers, you said we're screaming for peace. So that's a foundation of it.
right. So we've always had these critiques. We just like social critics at the same time. We critique our neighborhoods, our community, the leaders in our neighborhood. They would get critiqued even more than the society itself. You know.
Very much so. So on that song too, you talk about going back in time and realizing that blacks were the first on the planet. Why is that so hard for people to accept, understand, admit, acknowledge, realize?
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, people accept it. I think they accept it. They don't have a problem accepting it. The part that they have a problem accepting is the fact that all of the foundational tools, sciences, and disciplines for civilization had already been established. That's the part that they have a problem with. They'll say, okay, you were first, but we've evolved into these more intelligent beings of some sort, keep it in line with the ideas of white supremacy. So that's why people have a hard time really grasping uh, the idea. It's not that they don't believe that the first people were black. They just don't want to accept the fact that civilization, the foundation for civilization was already laid, you know, by these same black people who were first, you know, um, and that's the bigger issue, you know. And then when you look at America, you look at the United States, and you consider for some 400 years of being taught that black people were absent from history, that black people didn't have a history, we didn't have a written history, we didn't build civilizations, we didn't do any of these things, that we were inferior to everyone else. And for 400 years, having this idea drilled into your head on every sphere of your human existence, every sphere of the society, every part of society, they're drilling this ideal. Every institution, every part of the system, whether it's educational, political, economic, religious, sacred and secular, they all advance this idea in some way and to some degree or another. So after 400 years of this, it becomes the belief. It becomes the belief. And this is why we say an anti-black power structure. That's what we mean, because all of the uh, the perspectives on black people were negative, for so long and still to this day. So now it's embedded. It's very difficult for anyone to graduate high school in America and not have some form of anti-black perspective, have some type of anti-black behavior after that, even black people, so black people harbor a lot of the same views that white people that have went through this system. We say white supremacy and white people have this history of, but black people went through the same indoctrination process. We went through the same process. We all we all came up in America. So we all, it's just that on the other end, the system is designed, the ideology is designed and taught and advanced in a way that builds the pride, esteem, and motivation of one group and deflates the other, you know, by default. That's what it do. So, you know, that pretty much is why I think people have a hard time coming to grasp these things. It's like even today when they find out that some black person did something back 100 years, 200, 500, 400,000 years ago, they'd be like, wow, it's very difficult for them to, so they try to give credit to others all the time. It's like they'll say aliens built the pyramids before they give black people credit for that. It's one of those things, it's one of those things that, like for example, Herodotus, we study Herodotus in school. Herodotus is this great Greek historian. He traveled the world documenting all kinds of things. But as soon as a black scholar study the works of Herodotus and then just republish what Herodotus said, exactly what he said, word for word, concerning the globe as he knew it, the world as he knew it, civilization as he knew it, religion as he knew it. And he gave the credit to black people, to Ethiopians, and now Herodotus is not credible. And now all of a sudden Herodotus is no longer credible. He's not a credible historian. Okay. So now there are no credible, if they said anything that supports the idea that this religion or this discipline was developed in Africa by Africans, then it's a problem. This guy killed the messenger. It's one of those things.
It's like you say on Word to the Wise, why am I racist for spreading the truth? So that's the
it's one of those things, it's the way America has been structured. It's the psyche of America. The American psyche is anti-black. It's an anti-black psyche, and we've all been contaminated that way. We've all been all of our consciousness has been falsified in that regard, so we can't imagine certain things, so we go to the movies like, the movie was Clash of the Titans, the movie Clash of the Titans. In the movie, they released the Kraken comes out the water. They have Andromeda, I believe it is. Andromeda is chained to the side of the mountain, and her father, Cephas, he's the king of Joppa, and his wife Cassiopeia. In the original, in the works, in those works, in the epic works, they're Ethiopians,
which look a little different.
right. They're Ethiopians, right? So they're Ethiopians. But if you think about where they were in Joppa, which is on the Mediterranean, which is now a part of Israel, right? It's right there. It's where Ashdod used to be, is where the shipping ports and all of that were, where the Phoenicians used to launch off from and everything. So he called these people Ethiopians, which goes back to Herodotus. And Herodotus said that those people were also Ethiopians. Herodotus said they were Ethiopians, right? So, and we know back then Ethiopian didn't mean a geographical location for Herodotus and the Greeks. It just meant people of color, dark people. So if that was the case, that means that the people of Java in that region were Ethiopian. They were burnt-skinned people, right? But when you present that information, then it's, oh, that was just a myth. It was just a myth. It was just, but that's the psyche. That's what happens. That's what happens here. It's like we learn about Hippocrates. We don't learn about Imhotep, who was doing surgery and all of those things before Hippocrates. Hippocrates, it says that he learned in Egypt, but hey, that
is what it is. Well, man, Wise Intellgent, really appreciate you coming through Unique Access. We look forward to getting you back on here soon so we can continue the discussion.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me anytime.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Back with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.